Barton Dunant presents Training for Crisis Communications. Hello and welcome to the fourth of a series of 5 workshops associated with creating a crisis communications team at your organization. These workshops are designed for any type of organization, government, non-governmental, nonprofit, for-profit, and/or private organizations. It doesn't matter what type of organization you are part of. Everyone is subject to the need for crisis communications. Every one of those groups can be impacted by a disaster and the 3 disaster phases of before, during, and after. Sometimes disasters impact one organization only, and most times they impact multiple organizations at the same time. These workshops are built upon a concept called POETI, which stands for planning, organizing, equipping, training, and exercising. So this fourth one is the training for crisis communications, what training your team needs to have before, during, and after any incident or disaster. What exactly is crisis communications? It's a communications made by organizations, sometimes in collaboration and cooperation with others, representing that organization in response to an emergency. Crisis communications is not solely for emergency response organizations. It's for every organization to provide information to the public and its stakeholders, constituent groups, about how the disaster is impacting the organization and what the organization is doing, even if it's just a continuity of operations. There are also times when the crisis communication team needs to prepare reactive messaging that may never be used. If it is needed, chances are that that type of crisis messaging material cannot be quickly designed or approved during the actual crisis itself. Think about crisis communications in the same way we think about first aid, with the steps in order of check the scene for safety, have someone call 911, and then care for the injured. For crisis communications, you need to check the intelligence or information, also known as situational awareness. You need to gather the facts first. Call for assistance. Even if you do not need it now, you will want to have help ready in case something changes. Then communicate your message to the public and your constituent group stakeholders. There are a number of training courses, classes, elements, etc. available on crisis communications, some of which we will highlight in the 4th workshop of this series, the one on training. We are leading with the training from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC's Crisis and Emergency Risk Communications, or CIRC program. They highlight 6 elements that your communications should do. Be first. You want the information about your organization to come from your group, not a third party. It might be part of a larger group of communications, like that from a public information officer, government lead, or a moment later, it may be shared via a third-party service. For example, a radio station repeating snow day school closures, but the official word comes from the school first. Not everyone gets their information from the same sources. Be right. Part of what we first described as check the intelligence situational awareness, when there is uncertainty, you do not want to repeat or solidify rumors or innuendo. Stay in your lane and take the time to get it right the first time. Be credible. Speak with authority and purpose. Transparency is helpful as well. Working with partners on collaborative communications helps with credibility as well. Express empathy for the public, your own workforce, partners, etc. If the disaster hurt people, even if it has no possible connection to your organization, lead with that. If 3 people were killed during a tornado, your plumbing business shouldn't lead with a press release saying, "We're ready to help you rebuild your homes." Promote action. Encourage people to do the safer things for themselves and their families. Ask your staff to check in with supervisors to make sure they are okay and if they need help. Show respect for the victims first responders, your partners, stakeholders. Disasters and emergencies are stressful times. No need to be disrespectful or indifferent to others. This misstep will become a story and a crisis to your organization itself. Here's how the pieces all fit together under POETI. In this workshop, we're covering training, what initial and continuing educational training is needed by the team. The other 4 workshops will cover planning, which includes the priorities before, during, and after an incident, organization of the crisis communications team, equipment needed by the team, and finally the concept of exercising these planning, organization, equipment, and training components via a stair-stepped approach of increasing capability and complexity. Here are some acronyms and short terms you may see in this workshop. If we missed any, or if there are any terms or phrases that we use that are different or difficult to understand, please contact us directly at info@bartondunant.com and note the workshop name and number. In the design of the communications team's overall POETE, there are training objectives and strategic priorities. We believe these are some of the important elements of training the team before, during, and after an emergency or disaster. There are undoubtedly other elements as well. If you think of any that are generic to any organization, please drop us a line at info@bartondunant.com so we can improve this workshop. Hopefully by now you have a better understanding of how crisis communications is different from marketing or normal day-to-day corporate/organizational communications. It may be conducted by the same individuals, but the timing is very different, as are the stressors and outside impacts to your organization. We will cover a few more specific/tactical actions organized into 3 modules and provide you with an opportunity to practice creating some elements of crisis communications yourself. The preparedness phase is the longest. It's also the phase you reset to after an incident occurs. Besides the already noted training from the CDC, there are tons of crisis management and crisis communications programs and trainings out there. As part of your crisis communications plan and the identification of roles as part of the organizing of the crisis communications team, formalize and document the training that they need for these roles. Mentor and shadow new team members who may have partial training completed and/or lack the experience with crisis communications, either real-world exercises or both. And remember, the Barton Dunant Crisis Communications Workshop Series counts as training too. Crisis communications training should cover the differences and nuances in communicating. Natural and human-made disasters, product and process disasters, and fictitious disasters. Many colleges and universities offer crisis communications programs, non-degree certificates, etc. There are also government programs such as the CDC CERC and the U.S. Department of Education's Readiness and Emergency Management for Schools Technical Assistance Center, the REMS-TA, which provides free crisis communication elements along with other threat-specific training. For example, in the REMS-TA program, their active shooter situations training includes segments on both internal and external crisis communications. Our Barton Dunant blog has a post with free crisis communications training links, blog.bartondunant.com/EPA, under the Crisis Communications Workshop Training Module 4 section. Practice how well your training works regularly. Incorporate the new team members to help mentor them, and also the SMEs and contractors too. It also helps to include your executives in any training and practice sessions. This shows them that your team is ready and gives them a chance to practice their own training at being the spokesperson under a simulated stressful crisis scenario. Now it's your turn to practice. Please draft a list of the training courses needed for your crisis communication team, including whether this training is something the team normally has completed for their day-to-day operations or not. Will there be just-in-time training for this team? Will team members have to take at the start of the activation for this crisis? Do you expect any contractors or third-party groups you're bringing in to be part of your crisis communications team to have the same training or aligned training? In other words, if you follow the CDC CERC program, do you mandate that a public relations firm that you hire do the same? Depending on how you're conducting this workshop, you can log your responses with your facilitator, or you can use our Barton Dunant blog post at blog.bartondunant.com/EPA, lowercase EPA, and select a Crisis Communications Workshop section under Training and Module 1. The practice area for this one is the link called Training Module 1, AWR-TC1. You can use that blog post to record your practice material in a reply to that post and view the work of others who have taken this workshop. The response phase has its own elements to consider. Now is the time to not only use the preparedness training done beforehand, but also to prepare and expand the crisis communications team with additional subject matter experts, translators, even backup and relief staff. This crisis could require 24-hour-a-day response by the team. You need to have a plan to quickly provide condensed training to those folks should they need it. You may need to have an on-site trainer from your team or a contractor. During the response to this crisis, continue to document the time and resources being used. This is important for human resources, paid time off calculations, possibly even submission to the government for reimbursement cost share. This is also the time to capture how new training was utilized. It may be useful for future scenarios. Capture also the roadblocks and challenges your team is facing related to training, and think about the quick fixes and longer-term improvements needed, and hopefully those that will be approved by your management team for the next crisis. Now it's your turn again to practice. Please draft a training request for the entire team to be held during the response using whatever training expenditure request forms and processes your organization normally uses. Or this may be different for emergency operations. Also draft a request for a third-party trainer consultant from an outside vendor for 1 month and complete any organization's forms and processes to have a third-party consultant access your systems and cloud-based files. This will help prepare your team to understand now how these requests will be made during a crisis. Plus, it will help document the steps, forms, approval, etc. needed as part of your crisis communications team plan. Depending upon how you're conducting this workshop, you can log your responses with your facilitator, or you can use our Barton Dunant blog post at blog.bartondunant.com/EPA and select the Crisis Communications Workshop section under Training and Module 2. The practice area for this one is the link called Training Module 2 AWR-TC1. You can use that post to record your practice material in a reply to the post and view the work of others who have taken this workshop. Once the crisis is over, there is an opportunity to formally reflect and capture the information on best practices implemented and areas for improvement. That's called an after-action reporting and improvement planning. And by the way, this may be well beyond the traditional response phase of an emergency responders. If your facility, production, reputation, or other areas continue to be impacted well beyond the public's view of this disaster, your crisis communications team may still need to be in response mode well into recovery. There may also be thank you communications that need to be created and communicated, and also anniversary messages that need to be crafted or at least started, if applicable, based on the disaster. Your team may not have the training for this. Think about an active shooter incident at your office and how complex the communications will continue to be in the days, weeks, months, and even years after that incident. Don't forget, when you start to demobilize your staff, contractors, and others on your team, you should report in their post-event evaluations, 360 style, up and down. What training would they have benefited from that they didn't get? Make a commitment for the team members to get this training as a whole. Last chance in this unit to practice. Practice the process to perform the training inquiry section of both a supervisor to staff member and the training for the training needs section, and also the staff member to supervisor training request section. Depending upon the project or mission evaluation from your organization uses, these two items may be on the same evaluation form. And depending upon how you are conducting this workshop, you can log your responses with your facilitator, or you can use our Barton Dunant blog post at blog.bartondunant.com/EPA and select the Crisis Communications Workshop section under Training and Module 3. The practice area for this one is the link called Training Module 3 AWR-TC1. You can use that blog post to record your practice material in a reply to that post and view the work of others who have taken this workshop. Congratulations, you've now completed the 4th workshop. We hope you will take the last one in the series, the one focused on exercises, which is entitled Exercising for the Crisis Communications Workshop number 5. Once your team has completed the series of 5 workshops, please consider conducting a tabletop exercise with your team, and then evaluate the results for modification to your POETE process. Then work towards a functional exercise and other exercises. Never stop learning something new and practicing as much as you can.